In 1962, a retired postal worker in Tulsa turned a $100 bill into $1,200 in 6 months. He did not gamble. He did not inherit. He used a trick his father taught him during the Depression, and Wall Street has spent 60 years trying to make you forget it exists. Number 14 on this list was so effective that the IRS had to write a special rule about it. And number 3 built more middle-class wealth in America than any stock tip ever could. These 20 tricks were not secrets. They were common sense, passed across kitchen tables and barber chairs by men and women who survived the worst economy in modern history. Before we start, hit subscribe, because what you are about to learn could put real money back in your pocket. Let us count down the 20 smartest money-making tricks retired Americans swore by. Number 20, the Christmas Club account. Before credit cards turned holiday shopping into a January hangover, your grandparents walked into the local savings and loan every Friday and deposited $2 or $3 into a Christmas Club account. The bank sealed it, and you could not touch the money until November. By December, you had $150 waiting, enough to buy gifts for the whole family without borrowing a dime. In 1955, American banks held over $6 billion in Christmas Club deposits. $6 billion. That was not pocket change. That was an entire nation planning ahead instead of panicking in December. The genius was the forced discipline. Your grandmother knew herself well enough to know that money sitting in a checking account would vanish into grocery runs and school shoes. So she locked it away where temptation could not reach it. When credit cards arrived in the 1970s, banks realized they made far more money from interest charges than from savings accounts. Christmas clubs quietly disappeared from most branches. Visa and MasterCard spent millions on advertising telling Americans they deserved to buy now and pay later. Your grandmother would have laughed. She knew that paying later meant paying more. Today, apps like Capital and Digit recreate this exact trick digitally. But your grandmother did it with a paper passbook and a walk to the bank every Friday. No algorithm required. Number 19, buying day-old bread. Every bakery in America used to have a day-old rack. Bread baked yesterday, still perfectly good, was sold at half price. Your grandfather would stop at the Wonder Bread outlet store on his way home from work and buy 3 loaves for what one cost at A&P. The family ate fresh sandwiches all week. Whatever went stale became French toast on Saturday morning or bread pudding on Sunday night. Nothing was wasted. A loaf of bread cost about 20 cents in 1958. Day-old was a dime. Over a year, those savings added up to almost $15. Which does not sound like much until you realize the average weekly grocery bill for a family of 4 was about $28. That dime loaf represented real money. Outlet stores for bread companies dotted every American town. Mothers traded tips about which ones had the freshest day-old stock and which days the delivery trucks came. This was not poverty. This was intelligence. Today we throw away almost 40% of the food we buy. Your grandparents would have been horrified. Number 18, the envelope budget system. Before spreadsheets and budgeting apps, your grandmother ran the household finances with a shoebox and a stack of envelopes. Each one was labeled rent, groceries, electric, doctor, church, gas. On payday, she cashed the check and divided the bills into envelopes. When the grocery envelope was empty, you ate what was in the pantry. No exceptions. No borrowing from the rent envelope. This system worked because it made money physical. You could see exactly how much was left. You could feel the envelope getting thin. There was no abstraction, no wiping a card and hoping the number was still positive. A 1961 survey by the Federal Reserve found that households using cash-based budgeting systems saved on average 11% more than those who did not. 11%. That was the difference between a family vacation and staying home. Dave Ramsey built an entire financial empire teaching this method decades later. But your grandmother did not need a best-selling book. She needed a pen, some envelopes, and the discipline that came from growing up during the Depression when there was no safety net and no second chances. Number 17. Growing a victory garden that never stopped. During World War II, 20 million American families planted victory gardens. The government begged citizens to grow their own food to free up supply lines for the troops. By 1944, these gardens produced 40% of all vegetables consumed in the United States. 40%. But here is what nobody talks about. Millions of families never stopped. Long after the war ended, retired Americans kept those backyard plots going. A 20 by 20 foot garden cost maybe $5 in seeds and produced $300 to $400 worth of vegetables per season. Your grandfather grew tomatoes, peppers, green beans, squash, and lettuce from April through October. Your grandmother canned the surplus. Mason jars lined the basement shelves like soldiers, each one holding summer for the winter ahead. The economics were staggering. A packet of tomato seeds cost 15 cents. One plant produced 20 to 30 pounds of tomatoes. At grocery store prices, that was $8 to $10 from a single plant grown on 15 cents worth of seed. The seed companies knew this. The grocery chains knew this. Convenience slowly won. Supermarkets made it easier to buy a tomato than to grow one. But retired Americans who kept gardening spent a fraction of what their neighbors did on produce, and they ate better. Number 16. Buying whole and butchering at home. Your grandfather did not buy boneless, skinless chicken breasts at $4 a pound. He bought a whole chicken for 60 cents and broke it down himself. 8 pieces of chicken, a back and neck for stock, giblets for gravy. 1 bird, 3 meals. The butchering took 10 minutes with a sharp knife. Every man of that generation knew how to do it. Butcher shops taught customers for free because the whole bird was cheaper for everyone. A 1957 USDA report showed that buying whole poultry cost 40% less per pound than buying parts. 40%. That math has not changed. The same principle applied to beef. Your grandmother bought a whole beef round from the locker plant, had it cut and wrapped, and stored it in the chest freezer in the garage. She paid wholesale prices and had meat for 3 months. The locker plant system, where families bought shares of whole animals, was the original farm-to-table movement. It fed millions of American families for decades before the phrase was ever printed on a restaurant menu. First pattern break. Here is where things get interesting. Your grandparents understood something about money that modern financial advisors charge $200 an hour to explain. They called it paying yourself first. Before a single bill got paid, before groceries or gas or anything else, 10% of every paycheck went into savings. Not 5%, not whatever was left over, 10% off the top. In 1960, the average American savings rate was 12%. Today, it hovers around 4%. That difference is not because we earn less. Adjusted for inflation, we earn more. The difference is that an entire industry, credit cards, payment plans, buy now, pay later, was built on convincing us that saving was old-fashioned. Your grandfather did not have a financial advisor. He had a savings passbook and the memory of watching his own father lose everything in 1929. That memory was worth more than any certification on a wall. Number 14. The side hustle before it had a name. Retired Americans did not sit idle. Your grandfather fixed lawnmowers in the garage. He sharpened knives and scissors for the neighborhood. He repaired small engines, rewired lamps, and reupholstered chairs. He charged fair prices and never advertised beyond a hand-lettered sign in the yard. By the mid-1960s, informal repair work generated an estimated $4 billion annually in unreported household income across the country. The IRS eventually created specific rules about hobby income because so many retirees were earning steady cash from skills they had practiced their whole lives. Your grandmother was no different. She altered clothes, baked pies for church sales, watched neighborhood children, and sold eggs from the backyard coop. None of this required a business license or a website. It required competence and a reputation. The neighbors knew who could fix a toaster. They knew who made the best pie crust. That knowledge network was the original Yelp review, and it paid real money to people who had real skills. Number 13. Refinishing instead of replacing. When a dresser got scratched or a table looked tired, your grandmother did not drive to the furniture store. She sanded it down, stained it, and sealed it. A can of Minwax cost $1.50. A new dresser cost $75. The math was simple. American families in the 1950s and 1960s kept furniture for decades. A dining table bought in 1948 was still seating Thanksgiving dinner in 1978, refinished twice and stronger than anything made of particle board today. The same principle applied to everything. Shoes were resoled, not replaced. Coats were relined. Appliances were repaired. The average American household in 1960 spent 37% less on household furnishings than we do today, adjusted for inflation. Not because they had less, because they maintained what they had. An entire generation of retired Americans understood that the cheapest dollar you will ever spend is the one you do not spend at all. Number 12. Collecting aluminum cans and scrap metal. Your grandfather kept a barrel in the garage for crushed aluminum cans. When it was full, he drove to the scrapyard and walked out with cash. In 1965, aluminum recycling paid about 10 cents a pound. A full barrel weighed roughly 30 pounds. $3 for garbage that most people threw away. But your grandfather did not stop at cans. He collected copper wire from old appliances, brass fittings from plumbing jobs, and scrap iron from anything being torn down in the neighborhood. Copper paid 35 cents a pound. Brass paid even more. A retired man who kept his eyes open could earn $50 to $75 a month from scrap metal alone. That was real money, enough to cover the electric bill or put gas in the car for the entire month. Scrapyards were community institutions. Men gathered there on Saturday mornings, sorting metal, trading stories, and turning waste into income. The environmental movement later celebrated recycling as progressive, but working-class retirees had been doing it for decades. They did not call it saving the planet. They called it common sense. Number 11. Hanging laundry instead of running the dryer. Your grandmother did not own a clothes dryer until 1968, and even after she got one, she still hung sheets and towels on the clothesline every sunny day. The reason was money. Running a dryer cost roughly 25 cents per load in 1965 electricity prices. 7 loads a week meant almost $2 a month, $24 a year. The clothesline cost $3 and lasted a decade. But there was more to it than savings. Sun-dried sheets smelled better. Ultraviolet light naturally bleached whites and killed bacteria. Your grandmother knew this instinctively. It took scientists until the 1990s to confirm it in published studies. Today, the average American family spends over $100 a year running the dryer. Your grandmother spent $0. She also did not need dryer sheets, fabric softener, or any of the chemical products that fill an entire aisle at Walmart. The clothesline eliminated all of it. Number 10. Buying tools once and keeping them forever. Your grandfather bought a Craftsman socket set in 1955, and it was still in the garage when he died in 1992. One purchase, 37 years of use. That socket set cost $12 in 1955, roughly $130 in today's money. He fixed cars, repaired plumbing, assembled furniture, and maintained the house with that same set. The Sears lifetime warranty meant any broken tool was replaced free, no questions asked. He also kept a well-organized workbench with hand tools that predated power tools, a brace and bit drill, a hand plane, a set of chisels. These required no electricity and no replacement batteries. They worked every time. By owning quality tools and knowing how to use them, your grandfather avoided paying mechanics, plumbers, and handymen for jobs he could do himself. A conservative estimate puts the annual savings at $300 to $500 a year. Year after year, decade after decade. He did not call it do-it-yourself. He called it being a man. Second pattern break. Here is the trick that banks absolutely do not want you to understand. Your grandparents paid cash for everything: cars, appliances, furniture. If they could not pay cash, they did not buy it. The one exception was the house. A 30-year mortgage was considered almost reckless. Most families in the 1950s took 15-year mortgages and paid them off in 12. The math is devastating. A 30-year mortgage at 6% interest means you pay nearly double the purchase price of the home. A 15-year mortgage at the same rate saves you tens of thousands. Your grandparents understood this. They made extra principal payments whenever they could, sometimes just $10 or $20 a month. By the time they retired, the house was paid off, no mortgage payment. That single fact, owning a home free and clear, was the foundation of retirement security for an entire generation. Today, the average American carries a mortgage into their 60s. Your grandparents would have lost sleep over that. Number 7. Couponing as a legitimate income strategy. Your grandmother did not clip coupons casually. She ran it like a business. Sunday newspaper, scissors, an accordion file organized by category and expiration date. She matched manufacturer coupons with store sales, doubling and tripling when the store allowed it. In 1970, American consumers redeemed over 2 billion manufacturer coupons worth an estimated $600 million. Your grandmother's share might have been $30 to $50 a month. That covered the entire household cleaning budget. She knew which stores doubled coupons on which days. She knew which brands offered the deepest discounts. She traded coupons with other women at church. This was organized, strategic, and effective. The rise of digital coupons and loyalty programs has actually made this harder. Manufacturers reduced the face value. Stores eliminated doubling. The golden age of couponing died in the 1990s when companies realized they were giving away too much. Your grandmother got the best of it. Number 6. Buying land at tax sales. Every county in America holds tax lien auctions. Properties where the owner failed to pay property taxes go on the block. Your grandfather knew about these sales because he went to the courthouse and asked. In the 1960s, you could buy a vacant lot at a tax sale for $50 to $200. Some men bought lots, held them for 5 or 10 years, and sold them for 10 times what they paid. Others bought lots and built rental cabins, fishing shacks, or storage buildings that generated monthly income for decades. County tax sales still exist. They still offer properties at steep discounts. The process has not changed. You show up, you bid, you pay, you own. Yet most Americans have never attended one because nobody told them it was possible. Your grandfather knew because his father knew. This knowledge was passed down like a family recipe, quiet and invaluable. Number 5. The coin jar compounding trick. Every night your grandfather emptied his pockets onto the dresser. Coins went into the jar. When the jar was full, he rolled them and deposited them at the bank. A full jar held roughly $40 to $60. 4 to 6 jars a year meant $200 to $300 in found money. That money was never missed from the daily budget because it was never counted as part of it. But here is the clever part. He did not spend that money. He deposited it into a savings account earning 4.5% interest, which was the going rate in 1965. $200 at 4.5%, compounded annually, became $312 in 10 years. Multiply that by decades of coin jars, and the numbers become significant. This was not investing. This was patience. Your grandfather understood that small amounts, saved consistently over long periods, grew into real wealth. Modern financial planners call this the latte factor. Your grandfather called it the coin jar. Same principle, no app required. Number 4. Bartering services with neighbors. Your grandfather fixed the neighbor's fence. The neighbor tuned up his car, and nobody exchanged a dollar. Both walked away better off. Bartering was the shadow economy of post-war American neighborhoods. The plumber traded pipework for the electrician's wiring. The mechanic fixed the teacher's car in exchange for tutoring his son. The retired carpenter built shelves for the widow down the street, and she brought over casseroles and mended his shirts for a year. No taxes, no invoices, no middlemen. A 1964 study estimated that informal barter exchanges accounted for nearly 3% of total economic activity in suburban communities. That is billions of dollars in value, created without a single transaction passing through a cash register. The system worked because communities were stable. People stayed in neighborhoods for 30 years. Reputation mattered. If you did shoddy work, everyone knew by Sunday. That accountability created quality that money alone could not buy. Third pattern break. Now here is the trick that the entire financial services industry was built to make you forget. Your grandparents did not invest in complicated products. They bought U.S. savings bonds. Series E bonds, sold at post offices and banks across America, cost as little as $18.75 for a $25 bond. They were guaranteed by the federal government. They paid reliable interest, and they could not lose value. By 1970, Americans held over $50 billion in savings bonds. $50 billion. That was not Wall Street money. That was school teacher money, factory worker money, retired postman money. The bonds matured in 10 years, doubling in value. $18.75 became $25. Guaranteed, no market risk, no broker fees, no complicated prospectus. When the brokerage industry deregulated in the 1970s and the 1980s, firms spent billions of dollars in advertising, convincing Americans that savings bonds were boring, that real wealth required stocks, mutual funds, options. The products got more complex, the fees got higher, and the average American's financial security got worse. Your grandparents would have taken the guaranteed double every time. Number 2, renting out a room. Your grandparents had a spare bedroom. Instead of leaving it empty, they rented it to a young teacher, a traveling salesman, or a college student. The boarder paid $20 to $30 a month in the 1960s, which covered the grocery bill or the utility payments. Boarding houses were not shameful. They were practical. In 1960, the Census Bureau reported that over 8 million Americans lived as boarders or lodgers. Entire neighborhoods ran on this system. The retired couple got income and company. The boarder got an affordable room and a home-cooked meal. Everyone benefited. Airbnb now charges premium rates for the same concept. Your grandparents did it with a handshake and a set of house rules. The spare room was not wasted space. It was an asset, and they treated it like one. And the number one money-making trick retired Americans used: staying married to the same person. That is not a joke. It is the single greatest wealth-building strategy ever documented. A 2006 study from Ohio State University found that married couples who stayed together accumulated nearly 4 times the wealth of those who divorced or remained single. 4 times. Your grandparents shared one mortgage, one set of utility bills, one kitchen, and one car for most of their lives. They split the cost of everything and doubled their ability to save. Divorce, on the other hand, was the single greatest destroyer of middle-class wealth. 2 households instead of 1, 2 sets of bills, legal fees, asset division. The financial devastation lasted years, sometimes decades. Your grandparents understood this instinctively. Marriage was an economic partnership as much as a romantic one. They worked through disagreements because the cost of not working through them was catastrophic. Financial advisors rarely mention this because there is no product to sell. No fund, no app, no subscription. Just 2 people deciding every single day to build something together instead of tearing it apart. Here is my challenge to you. Try one of these this week. Just one. The envelope budget, the coin jar, the day-old bread run. Then come back and tell me your grandmother was wrong. Tell me these tricks are outdated because I tested them and the math has not changed. The compound interest still works. The clothesline still saves money. The spare room still pays rent. Share which one you are going to try in the comments. I want to know if the envelope budget gets more love than the coin jar. I want to know if anyone else's grandfather had a barrel for aluminum cans in the garage. Because these were not just money tricks. They were a philosophy. Spend less than you earn. Waste nothing. Build slowly. And the industries that profit from your impatience have spent billions trying to make you forget that it ever worked at all. Your grandparents knew. Now you know too.